video content. The one thing I would say to people is don't be concerned about how shit your video is to start with, because you're going to have that little of a following that's not going to matter. You could spend ages, and I've talked to people about this. It's like, you just need to start. You just need to start putting stuff out there. Like when I first started editing the podcast, it took me so long. I had no idea what I was doing. I just started, and it still is shit, but it's better. Right, it's like slightly. I learned something
cover
new.
photos are getting worse.
We're all part of this whole money game. This all.
Welcome back to another episode of Beers in Business. I'm Abe Dearmer, CEO of Assembler.
And I'm Andrew Martin, CEO of Teamgate CRM. There you go. First cheers. He's not messing around this week. Straight into it. What are you even drinking?
Friday night, buddy. Friday night.
You haven't even spoke about your beer yet.
All right, so I'm going to try and stick to my guns here and put this at the beginning of every episode. So this episode, what we're going to go through is social selling. So we'll go through our normal weekly wrap-up. We'll define what is social selling and some of the different platforms, talk through some of the tactics and techniques that we've seen, practice ourselves, look at some of the tools and resources that are out there. We will also bring out some of the key lessons that come with it. And as always, we don't have any listener questions, so because you all suck. So we won't have any questions, but that's really what we're going to focus on today, social selling. What I am drinking is I'm drinking another Zigzag. So this is Jackass Lager. So remember last week I had the Zigzag IPA, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the Jackass Lager, and we've dedicated this refreshing lager to Jack A.S. Jones, affectionately known as Jackass Jones, who operated the Lithgow Zigzag Brewery successfully through the first golden age of the brewery from 1897 to 1928. That's a long time to be a brewery, right?
Mm.
It was then known as Corbett's Brewery, and we are still able to use the same source of spring water for today's brewing, which is really cool. So, they use spring water that's sourced locally, which is something you don't really think about, right? Some of the ingredients that go into beer. So interesting to see they use the spring water, and as you saw before, nice little color on it for a lager, very lagerish, which is good.
Nice. This week I'm going new. So I've got a new beer type for the first time.
Chewy's new, mate.
New brewery. So this week I've got the Moffat Beach Brewing Company ambidextrous
just down the road from you,
hoppy red ale. It is. It's actually the closest brewery to my house, down at Moffat Beach, about a kilometre or two away. They've got the best lager, I believe. They won Queensland's best lager.
So shit then if it was just Queensland's best.
That'd have to be pretty good.
Competing with Forex, mate.
Surely. So anyway, this one says, hops or malt, this beer balances the best of both. Specialty malts provide flavours of burnt caramel, toffee and candy, whilst a huge hopping regime brings notes of citrus, pine and resin, all blending seamlessly to deliver a full-flavoured yet perfectly balanced beer, custom designed for the cooler months. 1.5 standard drinks.
Oh, this is 1.4. Forgot to say 1.4.
Night before it's brown.
Mate, you shouldn't be drinking before your final, buddy.
Rugby semi-finals tomorrow. Just
like put that in.
A week of illness.
I would say, how was your week, Andrew? But I already know what the answer is going to be. It was shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why don't you tell us all about it, mate?
Oh, that colour.
That's beautiful. Get into that. It's like an ASF. What is it? Your microphone's very, very on point today. I can hear you.
Sorry.
I can hear you drinking and then your lip smacking. It's like that chick eating the cucumber on the
I'm going to mute myself when I cough. My apologies, listeners. It's an interesting flavour.
Sound like sitting next to my daughter while she's eating dinner.
Very, very hoppy, I guess, is what you would. What's the strongness in a IPA? Is it the hops?
Yeah, pretty sure it's hops.
Yeah, hops. Okay, well,
I'm a beer connoisseur, you know.
I'm not really a hops fan. Yeah, that's not
a hop
kind
of guy. Yeah, some of the IPAs that are out there are super hoppy.
Yeah,
and it just
not a fan.
Ruins it.
Not a fan. My week was shit.
Also not a fan of this week.
As you're aware, Abe. So I tested positive influenza on Monday, and the week has been battling that. And now
Andrew's got HIV, everyone.
I've come out the other side of it, and unfortunately now my daughter has it, So, it's even worse is watching them deal with it. But yeah, not ideal. Haven't been able to train at all this week for rugby. Rolling straight into probably our hardest game of the year tomorrow. And it's meant to be 35 degrees.
Just have to knuckle down, mate, and get to it,
I went to the chemist today and bought a Ventolin for the first time since I was about 12.
My man.
So we'll see if I survive or not. I may be here next week with bronchitis or something.
Yeah, probably. More than likely, mate. My week was good. It is, Father's Day here in Australia this week, so that's exciting. I'm sure your kids, much as my kids, have got some fantastic grand plan surprise up their sleeve. But it's been a good week overall. The warmer weather is coming in. We hit 27, 28 here today. You probably hit like 40. And we're not even out of winter yet. So that's pretty exciting or scary. Depends on how you look at it. But overall, pretty good week. But your learning of the week, Andrew, what is it?
Well, considering I've been out of the office all week, I haven't really prepared for this podcast, as the listeners may find out tonight.
You don't prepare anyway, Andrew.
I always prepare, as everyone's aware. Mine's just around the sickness, how shit it's been. I've still had to work, obviously. I took Tuesday off.
You were out Tuesday,
part
sick.
of Tuesday off, and then I was back on deck. I had a lot of important meetings this week, which I'll get to in my quote of the week. A lot of good things happened for Teamgate this week, so it's where if there is a bright side for this week, it's that. So yeah, just in general, sickness sucks, especially when you're going through it yourself, but even more so when you have to watch your kids go through it and there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, absolutely. My learning of the week is probably more of like a general interest one, not so much a learning per se personally, although, I did learn about it. But the Fed, so the US RBA, were quoted as saying, the time has come and the direction of travel is clear, which everyone took to mean that they're going to start their rate reduction. And they've started to price in 50 basis points reduction from the Fed this year, which is really interesting. Saw a stock market jump. A lot of people really excited about that potential reduction in rates, which is really interesting because across the ditch for us, our RBA released a statement not long after the Fed, and it just pretty much was super confusing, non-committal, and said, we're unclear, unsure, but they're unclear and unsure really about anything. And that's probably off the back of Philip Lowe's massive screw up in the past, right? Yeah, they don't want to make like statements and guidance.
What's the worst that could happen? They couldn't be any more wrong than
if they say they're going to lower rates and then inflation jumps and then they've got to raise rates, it'll be all over. Because the Labor government doesn't want to look bad when rates rise again. So they're just pretty much saying like, we don't know. And they probably don't know. So I think it's probably going to hold until mid next year or something like that for our rates, which sucks. But we also didn't raise them as drastically as the US did in the beginning. Still not as high anyway. Good news, I guess, overall, because if the US is starting to lower their rates, hopefully actually, you remember previously I said when rates start to get lower, it actually means that the business or the economy is about to fall over or is going poorly. So I guess the Federal Reserve has sort of said, well, it looks like the US economy is about to fall over, is not going so well. So they're going to start lowering rates, which is a good and a bad thing. Good that rates will start to come down, bad in the way that the economy could be having a downturn. But stocks went up.
Yeah.
Quite a week.
That's a win.
My quote of the week is from Steve Jobs. Some of you may know him, co-founder Apple, all-around genius. So he has a lot of really great quotes, but this one here referencing today for what we look at social selling. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation that is to come, which is really, really interesting, right? Especially when we look at social selling, because it's all about how you depict your story. And it's really funny, right? Like you see all the influencers that are out there, whether they're fitness influencers or business influencers, their life could be a complete and utter shambles and they could look like shit without the, perfect lighting and perfect angles. But what they put out there on social media sells a story, a vision, values and shapes what people look for. Like you look at Kim Kardashian and all those sorts of people, like how many lives have they shaped simply because they've had a platform, told a story, and had certain vision, values, and agenda that they're pushing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that'll be extremely relevant when we talk about some of the stuff in social selling as we go through tonight. Recording at night for once. Mine is from the man himself, Richard Branson, who I'm sure many Australians know. Business opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming. So I'd say Q3 for Teamgate was pretty rough. Start to July and August. We've called some stuff back in August, but as I said, this week we have closed 3 new customers, one being the largest US customer of all time for Teamgate. So again, if you're seeing some downturn or you're having a rough trot, just continue to push forward, because that next opportunity could just be around the corner. And we didn't change anything. Obviously, we're pretty consistent with what we do. We do some testing and things like that, but these deals that have come through recently just have seemed to be a very, very good fit for what we offer and what they need. And yeah, some really good turnarounds on the deals as well. So 3 really, really big wins and really good wins for Teamgate this week.
Yeah, 100%, dude. And I think that's a really big thing that people need to realize, is that often weathering the storm, you come out the side, like it's always cyclical, right? I think the key bit there is that you have done the right thing and kept doing the things that you should be doing to get to that point, right? When things get bad, you don't take drastic action, you don't give up, you don't stop doing things, you just keep chugging along and things will come your way.
Yeah, and that was the deal I mentioned a couple episodes ago too. When the bloke joined the call and tried to steamroll me, we closed him. So
he steamroll you though.
He did. He was a lot nicer today on the call.
Yeah, that's beautiful, mate. Maybe he felt. Yeah. Maybe he realised you were sick.
Now. I think we're friends.
You're friends.
Now.
Best
buds. He realizes the work we're doing for him.
Yeah, no, that's good, mate. All right, well, Andrew wants to keep this short and sharp because obviously he's had a eventful week and he's still under the weather.
Let's just say your bullying has taken to another level this week. I told you on Tuesday, hey, I'm pretty crook. I'm pretty crook. Let's give the podcast a miss this week. I've got
what
a lot
did
of
I
work
say?
To catch up on.
I said I can just do it solo. I said I can do it solo.
You said we're doing it. We're doing it. So here we are.
The podcast needs to happen. The people need it weekly. We can't skip a week. It's habits, man. It's habits. You skip a week, it's over.
We're going to do a highlights package.
Yeah, but then I've got to edit highlights, mate. That's rough. That's rough.
Your problem.
I just thought we could get enough highlights if I just did the podcast myself and just talked to people for an hour. Give me a grandstand.
Highlights are anyway.
I think you were concerned about me doing a podcast by myself and that you'd end up just getting kicked off.
No, that's not a concern.
No, it's yeah. Look, as much as Andrew loves getting on a public platform and putting himself out there, he didn't want to give me the opportunity, or I knew that I wouldn't survive in that world. So thank you, Andrew, for doing the podcast. I appreciate it.
I'm here.
Your efforts are appreciated.
Thanks, mate.
So let's jump into what is social selling. So Andrew's done no preparation for this. So Andrew, what is social selling? I'm just kidding.
It's selling socially. There you go. Simple. 2 words. Social media sales.
Yeah, so it's a process of using social media to find, connect with, understand, nurture relationships, and with potential customers, right? So it's important when we define things, we want to make sure our words are accurate. So when you break that down, you look at social media platforms to find, connect, and understand and nurture. So when you look at that, it's not pitching someone, it's not just inboxing someone. It's not running ads
on social media.
Yeah, that's advertising, right? It's not running ads. It's going out and understanding. We talked about ICP and developing ICP, finding where they live and knowing where they live on social media, whether that be on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. If you're, more in the, B2B side, LinkedIn, looking at those different platforms that are out there and available, Reddit, where do people live? What are they doing? Find them, connecting with them. And this doesn't mean like going out and friending them all. it's actually building that connection through not pushing your business objectives, but actually just trying to be helpful more than anything else. So connecting with people on a personal level. And then understanding. So building out an understanding of what are the problems that they're facing and how you can help with them is a really key part. And a lot of people don't do this very well on social media. They just like pitch, put things out there, but actually building understanding and being able to help people out. And then the nurture piece there is also really important, where this isn't like a one-shot kill opportunity. It's about constant engagement, constant on the grind. You got to constantly be posting on socials, keeping things up to date, staying in the algorithm, keeping people moving along. And eventually, when they have that opportunity or that need, or you build enough trust, they're going to then move forward with you and take the next step, whether that be booking in a demo or getting you to come around and do a job, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. And I think you said something really good there, which we've spoken about in the last couple.
I said lots of things really good.
Another episode. But it's understanding where your target audience lives. So for Teamgate, we spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. We've spent a lot of time on Twitter and places like that. And recently we realized a lot of, sales reps or small business owners or people looking for answers or looking for guidance are actually going to Reddit. So we've recently found a lot of success on Reddit. So that's going to be different for every industry. For your services businesses, your trades, a lot of people looking for trades or looking for answers on Facebook, in community groups, right? Or they're looking for recommendations through. They'll go to Facebook and ask, hey, does anyone have an electrician in the area? And they look for that automatic social proofing. Yeah, understanding, testing different locations to work out where that audience is living or where they're going for advice in your specific area of expertise. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the key bit that you talk about there is that advice, expertise, like providing assistance to people. And I think
there's got to be some sort of value, right?
It's a good segue into looking at how it differs from, your traditional selling, which, the first thing to bring up is that the non-intrusive approach towards social selling really focuses on, okay, well, how do I get my message out, build the interest in what I have to offer without coming across as being like pushy, like, hey, book a demo, hey, book a demo, hey, book a demo, hey, sign up with me, sign up for this product, get into this. And I don't know whether it's just because of my algorithm, but the people who do it really, really well are fitness influencers, online coaches, certain fitness influencers. I won't say all of them, right? But it's like this big trend now where all of them are doing like, hey, this is how you do X, Y, and Z exercise. If you've hit this particular plateau, this is how you achieve this. If you want to do this, this is how you do it. And they're actually like, the ones who do it really well, it just seems like they're not actually trying to get business off you. It's like, I've already got enough business. Like, I'm just here providing advice, free advice. It's the ones who are like, I've got 2 spots left. You need to sign up now. I've only got 2. So it's like, fuck off, mate. Your book's not full. Like, you've probably got...
It's an online course. How do you only have 2 spots left?
Yeah, you're probably sitting there twiddling your thumbs, right? Like, you got nothing to do. But having that non-intrusive approach, and a person who's really good at that is Seb Orb, Strength Coach. He's really, really like picked up his social media game. He's really good at social media, right? He just goes like, yes, he'll have like his sales stuff in there. But the big part that he does is like, hey, you want to bench press? This is how you bench press. Does a tutorial on bench press. And we'll say like at the end of the reel, like, hey, here's the cues that you should be using. And it's just that non-intrusive content that people look at and watch and share, and they'll watch over and over again and be like, hey, maybe I need this guy as a coach because he seems to know what he's talking about. And then they sign up for one of his products. James Smith, PT, he cops a lot of flack. But
he's great.
He's like, he's funny, he's engaging, he doesn't constantly like push things on you, just tries to provide information. There's some really, really good ones out there. And the biggest thing that I can say is that when you start your social selling journey, don't be that idiot that's just pushy, being intrusive, getting in people's faces, because you're not going to gain a following. People are going to be like, oh my God, it's Andrew again. Could he just fuck off? Like, stop, get out of my inboxes. I don't care. Like, how many times on LinkedIn do you get like, hey, Andrew, would you like to sign up for it? And it's like, no, shut the fuck up. Get out of my
messages. Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the people who are on there, like posting every day, providing good insights, giving you value, you're like, oh man, I could work with that person. I wonder if they, if they do consulting or whatever, right? You
And
think that way.
you see the good and the bad across all, like you see it on LinkedIn a heap, but even on Reddit, it's almost like bots. Someone will ask for a very specific niche type CRM with all these requirements, and then you just get all the bots. Hey, sign up to HubSpot here. Sign up to
Have you tried HubSpot? Have you tried Salesforce?
Because they're a reseller of that. So yeah, it's like bot. Same thing on Facebook. If people are like, hey, I need an electrician to do X, Y, and Z, and then it's just like this person's just tagging their brother who's a handyman. It's like, come on. So yeah, it's got to be some sort of, non-intrusive, but also offering value at the same time, and that's where you get.
Another way to look at it as well is Mitch talked about this when he was on the podcast, where he like started commenting in groups, like Facebook groups, local Facebook groups, like, oh, did everyone catch UFC like 308 or whatever? And everyone will start commenting on there like, yeah, that was a shit fight. I hated this. And Mitch is like, oh, I actually liked, and he'd start like just, and all it is building brand awareness. It's not intrusive. It's not like, hey, come get light fixtures installed from Zeus Electrical. He's literally just there, like, having a conversation about UFC and potentially like taking the wrong side on purpose to get people to comment and keep, engaging with him. But at the end of the day, like, it's building brand awareness. It's not intrusive. People don't feel like they're getting sold. And people see Zeus Electrical all over the place.
He was doing it on TikTok as well. He was going live. He was doing like lives with like live random matchups with random people around the world, and he just like talk shit to them. And that's how he started building a following on TikTok as well.
That's pretty funny. That's great. Gotta love that. All right, do you want to talk about the next one?
What is the next one? Two-way communication. So ongoing dialogue rather than one-sided messaging. So this is where, we could talk about like inboxing and messaging people, but for me, it's more engagement on social media. So putting out content that has value, that's going to gain, that engagement from your followers, and then also engaging with their content. So that works on places like LinkedIn. On Facebook, probably not so much. But if you're in those communities, in the Facebook communities, and people are asking questions that you know the answers to, and you can provide value, go and provide that value. If it's it's not going to cost you anything to go on there and provide an answer for someone, and then someone's going to see that. They're going to appreciate that you took the time and effort to actually provide someone an answer, and they might just start following your page, and then a couple of months down the road, you might get that business from that follower. So obviously it also relates to the messaging. If you're going to reach out to people, obviously we have seen things on LinkedIn where it's very automated and very generic, and it doesn't build any sort of communication, let alone two-way, but having that ongoing dialogue. So for me, recently we implemented a tool in Teamgate where you can see when people visit your website and you get their LinkedIn profile. So I've actually just been connecting with those people, and then they can, I'm not then going and messaging them. I'm just connecting with them. They can see my content for a couple of months, and then, go and flick them a message later, and start that two-way dialogue, or let them engage me if they actually enjoy that content. So, a few different ways to skin the cat there.
I'll tell you who does a really good job of this that I've seen anyway is Celeste, who was on the podcast recently talking about gap selling. Constantly on LinkedIn. She builds a lot of business out of LinkedIn, and understandably so, because she's on there all the time doing a great job of just engaging with other people. Sales managers, other sales trainers, things like that. Like just having conversations, just having that two-way communication. She'll put a post up there about gap selling, and someone will say, "Oh, I disagree with this because of X, Y, and Z." And she go, "Oh, that's really interesting. Tell me more about why you disagree with X, Y, and Z, and what you think about this, and blah blah blah." And we'll say, "Oh, I don't think that's correct because of X, Y, and Z, or A, B, C." And so it's actually really good because it's like you're having a discussion, and then you might find that they go, "She actually knows what she's talking about. I might." Hit her up for some training, or I'll keep that in mind for later on. And so it's not about trying to sell. It's about just providing that, that value, right? Like you see it when it's not so like TikTok and Instagram and even Facebook is not really, you don't see a lot of that two-way communication happen.
No.
It's more like just put it out there and see what happens. Usually it's like, usually it'd be crowd commenting. So someone who's bigger on social media you'll see that someone will say, oh, this is a load of bullshit. And then people will be like, they'll just comment under it, right? And it just becomes this whole conversation without the original poster actually being involved in it, the content creator. Sometimes you will see like Thor. He, like everyone knows Thor, right? The
God of Thunder.
the mountain. Yeah, the mountain. So, the strong man out of Iceland. So he's really good because he'll comment back to people and things like that as well on Instagram, whether it's him, his wife, or, his social media manager, whatever it is, right? But he comments back to people constantly about stuff and having that two-way communication. So I think it is important. And if you can do it, definitely spend the time and you'll get value out of it.
Yeah, and I think, you don't see it much on Facebook and things like that. I think Reddit is a good one to do it. So it also breaks up the mundane. If you're constantly trying to sell, people will see that. They click on your profile and they're just going to see that you've said Teamgate, Teamgate, Teamgate on every single post. But, if I see people, there's a lot of small business owners will be just asking for advice around tech stacks or around CRMs and things like that. And if we're not a good fit, I'll still, comment on there and provide advice and say, hey, go check out this.
Point them in the right direction.
Point them in the right direction. Yeah, exactly. It builds credibility outside of just
and this is where Reddit
a product.
Has done such a good job with their karma. Like it's essentially they've built like a social credit machine, right? So if you're on Reddit and you're just selling, you're going to have no karma. You're going to look like a bag of shit on Reddit. But if you're on Reddit and you're actually like saying good things, getting people the answers they need, you're going to get good karma. You're going to, you'll go up in rating on Reddit, which I think is amazing. And they do a really good job of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Next one is the focus on the buyer's journey. I'm going to talk a lot about, I'm going to talk again about fitness influencers. I don't know. It's like they do a pretty decent job at it. And I see it on Instagram. I feel like business people are not as much on Instagram, or I'm not on business Instagram, or they take a very much approach of they're just marketers or advertisers, paying, like you see it all the time. Who is it? Corporate Bro gets sponsored to do like a Dell commercial on his feed. And it's like, it's trash. You just look at it, you're like, oh, fucking next. Like, who cares? Like, shut up. Go put that on LinkedIn. Like, I'm not here. Instagram, I don't want to see that shit. Whereas fitness influencers, you get, for instance, you get Seb Orup. He'll mix in instructional, informative, or funny content with, hey, sign up. That's where he really gets his, where I think he does a really good mix, where he's focused on the buyer journey, where he'll show like him and some of the strongest powerlifters in Australia in his gym lifting heavy ass weights and just doing like phenomenal things. And at the end of it, he'll be like, put a picture of himself saying like, hey, do you want to get strong or do you want to get shredded? DM me this word and I'll be in touch. Right. So it like, he just focuses on that buyers. Like people, they see these strong ass people working with him and they're like, holy shit, I wish I was that strong. And it's like, hey, you want to get this strong? Then DM me this. And it's like, I do want to get that strong. I'm going to fucking DM this dude. It's just about like getting people in the right mindset and the right feeling and getting them through that buyer's journey, I think is super important. And as you said, you're not trying to sell people straight away on Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. It's not going to work. However, if you comment on things, you have a good conversation, you agree on some points, you're, having that two-way dialogue, very non-intrusive, you sort of earn the right and the trust to go, hey, Andrew, that was a great conversation we had. Really glad we had it. How would you feel about, booking a call to see if we can help out? And you'd be like, yeah, sweet. Let's just jump on a call anyway. And if it's not a fit, at least like I've had a conversation with you already. I feel like we sort of trust each other a little bit. We can have that talk.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think of that?
Even if you can get them on a call and even if it's not a good fit, if you're not being a dick and you're not over pushy and you've hit all the other points around, non-intrusive and providing value. And if you're not a fit, you're not a fit. But I guarantee if they run into someone that needs your services, they're probably going to send them your way. So yeah, take the time to at least try get them on a call. Reddit is a funny one because you can sell there, but I would say you're always trying to get them separate. Just point them to your website to try to get them on a call or something like that. But yeah, you get some success there. But I think the big ones are the other social media platforms, depending on what you're selling and when. We've spoken about social media platforms a lot, so we should probably roll into it. And I guess the role of social media platforms in modern sales strategies. Obviously, LinkedIn is a big one for our industry. So first thing you made me do when I got a job was go and create my LinkedIn profile. I don't think I used it for the first couple of months, but you and I are very active on there now.
Yeah, like reasonably active. I guess my biggest thing with LinkedIn is that it's a massive cesspool, and it depends on the industry that you're in. So when we say like LinkedIn for professional networking, 100%, but it also depends on if you're trying to sell to people, very crowded market. If you're trying to sell, B2B stuff, people just do it really, really poorly on there. And it's hard because you have to be super passionate about something for it to stick. Because when we get into some of the tactics and techniques, it's hard to be consistent with any sort of social media.
Hardest. Yeah. It's extremely difficult. And LinkedIn, like you said, it's so crowded. It's so crowded, and especially with like the influencer thing at the moment, a lot of them in the B2B space or any sort of space. And I also don't understand
LinkedIn's algorithm.
LinkedIn. Yeah, I don't think anyone does. And I think it changes so often that you can't really get a handle on it.
And I think it's pretty shit as well, because if you like one person's thing, suddenly you'll see like 4 posts from them. One of those posts is from like 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is going on? Why am I seeing this shit?
Yeah, it's cooked. And then obviously LinkedIn have a lot of paid services that tailor to sales. So, of course, it's going to be this massive crowded area where, unfortunately, there's a lot of shit sales reps. And I think AI and automation's made it even worse, because
like LinkedIn inbox has pretty much become the new email inbox.
It has.
For sales, right?
Yeah.
Marketing still goes to email. Sales just go to LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's gross. So yeah, that's LinkedIn. Obviously, there's professional networking there. For sales, it can be tricky. I think you and I have had success, not so much with cold outreach, in a way cold outreach, but I think you don't connect with someone and just pitch them straight away. That's I think the big one that people make the mistake with.
So one thing, I think Josh Braun says it really well, is how to be a green circle in a sea of red crosses. Like, that's one of his key sayings. And when you look at all of this social media stuff, there's so many red crosses out there, right? So many red crosses. None of them, like, no one's following, no one's subscribing, no one's liking it. It's how you become that green circle in the red cross. That's really the key bit. And so that becomes, that is through focus, consistency, and providing value. The red crosses, the people who aren't engaging, aren't commenting, all that kind of stuff. They're the people you got to worry about.
Yeah, so I used to post a lot of just shit, like blogs, just repost blog. Like, if it's a good, valuable blog, sure, but you know who you enjoy following on LinkedIn, because the content they're putting out is value. Obviously, people like Keenan, most of the gap sellers put out really good content. So yeah, they're the people that you follow, and you're probably going to want to buy from. But yeah, there's different tactics and techniques. I won't jump into it, but we've seen success just doing things to stand out on LinkedIn. So if you're gonna try to sell someone on LinkedIn and you want to send them an inbox like every other person, you're probably not going to stand out. So we'll talk about how you can potentially get around that when we get to the next segment.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one we're going to talk about Facebook and Instagram for brand awareness. Facebook, like, they're both meta, right? But I see them as being fundamentally different in a lot of different ways. But it does build brand awareness, absolutely correct. But I feel like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram fall into the same category for video content, simply because of how Instagram just copied Reels pretty much. TikTok had this great thing, copied Reels, and now everyone who's on Instagram sees TikTok Reels like 3 months later.
It's funny. But all the boomers that refuse to get on TikTok, but they'll be scrolling through Instagram Reels.
Yeah, it's like you're looking at the same thing, buddy.
That was me.
Yeah, 100%. Still is me.
Yeah.
But I think Yeah. But when you look at Facebook, community groups is a really good place where if
definitely.
you're like social selling, that's where you should be. Whether it be if you're like localized, like geographic bounds, services, electricians, masseuses, PTs, like all that kind of stuff, local PTs, and Facebook groups are really good because you can build that connectivity, bond over things, mutual demand, like commenting on UFC, getting people stirred up, all that kind of stuff. Like it's great content. But other than that, on Facebook, it's like unless you join like a professional group, there are some like professional groups that are out there, but not really that used on Facebook. Instagram though, you've got reels, you've got stories for video content. One thing that Instagram does really well, a lot of people starting to get onto is the polls. So, people voting on things, getting engagement that way and having like good conversations. I saw Kevin Yuan, once again, fitness, right? He recently converted from WRPF, which is the Powerlifting Federation, to APL. And he was like, I have to squat so much deeper in APL than what I did with WRPF. And so he put up there like, hey, should squat depth be judged differently depending on if you're in your wraps or sleeves? Very controversial topic because squat depth is like the biggest thing that people talk about in powerlifting. No one gives a fuck. Like deadlift, you lift it up, you put it back down. Bench press, you move it to your chest, you push it back up. Squat is like, was that low enough? Was that not low enough? Like you see all, like no matter who you are, you've probably seen a video going like seeing someone squat and then everyone commenting like, those aren't real squats, ass to grass, or that wasn't low enough, don't count those ones. Yeah. All that kind of shit, right? And so it's a very controversial topic. And so him doing that gets so much engagement. The poll going on, comment below, like really engaging post. And so when you look at Instagram, there's so many tools on Instagram you can use to get engagement. But the problem is you have to have the following on Instagram to start with, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard because it's not like, yes, you could comment on reels and things like that, sure. But realistically, overall, if you don't have the followers, you're not going to get the engagement. And so you need to build the base. And James Smith PT talks really well about this, about how he shows like the graph, his follower graph on Instagram. And he's like, see this?
Like
this is the first
nothing.
5 years of my business. And it's like, you can't even see the followers. It's that low. And he's like, and here's the last 2 years. And it's like, when I hit X followers, I just went boom. And so it's like you just hit the tipping point, right? So it's once you get a certain amount of interactions and things like that, it just multiplies and spreads like 6 degrees of separation, right? It suddenly starts showing to everyone because it's like, oh, this person must be important.
Yeah, definitely. I think Instagram's good for like brand awareness, like posting things and getting it out that way. I think Facebook's good if you've got the time to be posting in those community groups and being active in there as well. The next one's Twitter, or X for real-time engagement. I'd also maybe throw Reddit in there. So these ones, obviously with like your trending hashtags and things like that, you're going to see what's happening in real time. Again,
like with Twitter or X, you got to be like on it. Like within an hour, you can be like completely irrelevant.
And I would also caveat on Twitter, it's also pretty hard to generate a following if you don't already have one. That's probably the one I've found the hardest to generate a following on, unless you're paying for bots.
I feel like Twitter's like Twitter or X, depending on what you call it, is just one of those things, right? That you need to be really consistent at, you need to be posting all the time, and you need to be like in the know to generate
knowing where to post, like where to post, what to post about. Yeah, I think you just need to know it, and I've never used it before other than this year.
I tried.
So it's so hard.
I just can't get around it.
And it's just, it's so time consuming. I don't know how it would work with selling. I don't know how many people would have success there, but...
So a lot of people just build... it's not so much about... X is more about personal brand more than anything else.
Yeah, it's definitely about brand because you get even like bad, good and bad though, right? Remember when Salesforce stock dumped? Twitter went crazy. Crazy. Good and bad, right? These people were getting, they were getting destroyed on there. Same thing.
But it's also personal brand, right? These people with the voices saying like Salesforce sucks, it just dumped. Right, they're building a voice and they're like, oh, Andrew just said Salesforce sucks. I agree with him. I'm going to follow him on X.
No one followed me. I said it multiple times.
I was already following you. I'm sorry. Can't follow twice, mate. Yeah, Twitter. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. YouTube and TikTok, video and Instagram, right? Video content. The one thing I would say to people is don't be concerned about how shit your video is to start with, because you're going to have that little of a following that's not going to matter. You could spend ages, and I've talked to people about this. It's like, you just need to start. You just need to start putting stuff out there. You just need to start editing. Like when I first started editing the podcast, it took me so long. I had no idea what I was doing. I just started, and it still is shit, but it's better. Right? It's like slightly. I learned something
cover
new.
photos are getting worse.
Why?
I don't know.
Don't hack my cover photos, mate.
Someone started making them.
Yeah, what a piece of shit. How dare you? But when you look at it right, you just need to start on these video content platforms. If you've got a phone, if you've got a brick, just start recording and just doing things. Don't try and get the full setup and, the camera, the microphone, like all that kind of shit. Just record to start with and just start making content. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get like one view on your first video. And if you spend 4 weeks editing it, filming it, scripting it, making sure it's perfect for one view, you're going to be pretty disheartened. Whereas if you're just like, hey, I'm just going to record some shit and put it out there and people watch it, you're like, oh my God, people watched it.
Someone watched it.
Like just changes the dynamic completely, right? But if you spend 2 weeks editing it and no one watches it, you're like, well, what a waste of time. I'm not doing that again. No one watches it anyway.
Yeah, and that was definitely me when we started the podcast. But then, like, remember we had a message on Instagram, and it was like
we've got a few messages now.
Some random guy from like WA that neither of us knew. That was like, hey, like, and he sent us some pretty nice messages about some stuff he was going through and that he could relate to some of the stuff.
And you're also the Beerwah Bandit now. Like people know you for the podcast. They come up to you and they're like, hey, Andrew, listen to the podcast, mate. It's great.
People do say that to me. Believe it or not. Yeah.
They're like that Abe guy. God, what a legend.
Yeah, they say, tell him to stop talking about the gym.
But so those are your different platforms, right? So LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and just try and reuse as much content across all those platforms as you can. That's probably the big thing as well. All right, cool. So let's look at some of the tactics and techniques that are out there. The first one, building a strong online presence. And I don't know, I'm in two minds about this one, about optimizing your social media profiles for credibility. I think there's a point where it becomes too manufactured. And there's also a point where you don't want to have like no profile photo, I don't know. I go to remember that when the craze was on Instagram to have your grid like say something. Remember you used to go to those things and it was like a picture or something like that. It just reminded me of like MySpace. People trying to like create these things. It's like no one cares, mate.
MySpace was great. I love
MySpace. Was great. Imagine selling on MySpace. I probably did actually. Sold myself, my soul on MySpace. Put your favorite music on there,
Favorite music, favorite friends, top friends.
Top friends. Kick over the top three, buddy.
Yeah. I'm getting brawls over that. Kick some of your top friends.
But yeah, I think that when you look at optimizing, it's important to project what you want to project. So if you want to be funny or you want to be, credible business-wise, you just need to figure out what you want to be.
Yeah.
And what your ICP wants you to be as well.
Like if you are social selling, you obviously need some sort of personal brand or on your social media profiles. But I think the level you go to will depend on where you're selling. Obviously, if it's Facebook, Reddit, doesn't really matter. If it's LinkedIn, then maybe it has a little bit more weight to it. But again, I wouldn't go crazy. It's when you could be spending your time, engaging with content rather than building out your own profile to make yourself look good.
Yes, agreed.
What's next? Engaging with your audience. So working out how to identify and connect with potential leads. So we've kind of already spoken about this, working out where they live, connecting with them and speaking to them.
So Andrews just wants to get through this podcast too quickly, where there's like a few sub points here that we missed out on a strong online presence. Okay,
we definitely didn't. There was one.
So the one key
which we've already
point,
spoken about 7
the
times.
one key point is, and we can't stress this enough, is consistency. Podcast weekly, right? Andrew wanted to skip. So, mate, that's not consistent. Need to be consistent, right? Need to constantly post. Because you look at TikTok, right? You post on TikTok, your video gets views for the first 24 hours and then nothing. Absolutely nothing. Pretty much every video that you post, it'll trend for maximum 24 hours. And then, you know, TikTok will test it, put it through. But even the best videos, they're gone in like 24 hours, right? So you need to be consistently posting good content on those platforms for the algorithm even to consider you and posting your content. So I'd say with that is the way you get consistent is by planning. So I've talked to some people when they wanted to start, you know, social media influencing. I'm like, great. What you need to do is you need to schedule a recording day, an editing day, and a scheduling day. And they're like, what do you mean? And it's like these people who are like constantly putting out videos, they're not just like waking up in the morning and going, I'm going to put a video out about this. It's like, no, they probably record all of their videos in the one session. And they'll sit there, they'll have them all ready to go. They'll record all the videos and they'll go, sweet. Thank God that's done. You know, you get in the mindset, you get in the mind frame. You know, if you're recording in a location like an office or a gym or, you know, on a job site or, you know, whatever, right? You're going to make sure that everything is neat and tidy, manufactured, et cetera, et cetera. And you record on one day and then you go, sweet, my next down day is going to be Thursday. I'm going to edit the video. So you go through, you get in the mindset, you edit all the videos, get your captions, all that other crap ready to go. And then you go, all right, it's cool. Sunday, nice restful day, I'm going to go through and schedule it all. So you start scheduling out on Buffer, or if you're using Instagram, you can use, you know, the Meta business platform. Schedule all these videos out so they go out, you know, one a day at a certain time, et cetera, et cetera. You put all this out there, but you need to make sure that you have the appropriate planning tools in place to get to this point, because if you don't, it's not going to happen. Like I think for me, like LinkedIn, I usually have like this Saturday for me, which is Friday US time, I'll go and create content for the next week.
Yeah, and that was part of my routine as well. Was generally Saturdays you do all your socials, schedule them out, and then it's sort of done for the next week, so I don't have to worry about it. It's a little bit harder now with podcasts. A lot more prep to do, a lot more editing to do, and
you do
TikTok.
heaps of editing, mate.
I do shorts for TikTok, which didn't go out this week. Moving on, engaging with your. Am I right? Am I right to move on, Abe?
You may proceed.
Are you done? Do you want to take this one as well?
No. Just go ahead, mate.
No, sure.
Are you sure you can handle it?
No, I'm not, but we'll see what happens. Engaging with your audience. Okay, so identifying and connecting with potential leads. So again, coming back to the previous points that we spoke about before, working out who you want to connect with and why and where they live. Now, if it's connecting with people that you're trying to sell to, you've got to be given that value. So posting things that they're going to care about. If you connect with them, or if they follow you and there's no value there, you run the risk of them pretty quickly disappearing or disconnecting from you on social media. So that's where, again, that value-driven content comes from, and that'll allow you to soft sell and eventually lead to the inboxes and things like that. And if they're engaging with that content, that gives you the signal that there might be some sort of interest there to be able to actually go and make that introduction. And then obviously, if you're going to do the introduction, don't go and be like everybody else on LinkedIn and just fucking send a stupid generic, hey Abe, I thought you might be interested in Teamgate services. For this month, we're going to offer 10% off.
It gives me like a migraine just thinking about it.
I don't even read it.
LinkedIn has this great thing where you can just send it to other.
Send to other and never see it again.
And then you forever live in other.
But I guess what we've had some success with video content. So sending someone a video, it's obviously feels a lot more personalized. If you know, Abe was to see a message from me, he obviously can't see what it says. So for me, if someone sends me a message, I'll skim it, and if it looks salesy, it's gone. But obviously, if you send a video, you've at least got to hit play to see what's inside. And if you're sending them a personalized message, hey Abe, I was on your profile. I see you mentioned X, Y, and Z. I thought you might be facing this problem. We'd love to have a chat to see if we can help. Something like that, you're at least going to get their attention and potentially start that two-way communication to move to the next step. If you're going to send them a message, again, do something to stand out. So the other tip I'd say is if you just connected with someone, don't message them straight away. Obviously, give it some time. Again, the worst thing I see is when someone's trying to connect with me and there's like a preview message on LinkedIn and they're already trying to pitch me in that connection request. I'll ignore it and move straight on. So if you're going to connect with someone, connect with them, engage with their content as well as your own, putting out value. And then if you're going to try the cold outreach, make it personal, maybe mention their content, mention their company or a problem you think that they might be facing and how you solve it. Going back to our gap selling conversation last week. So
yeah. I think the biggest thing there is that like social media is meant to be a two-way play. All the tools were created for you give me value, I give you value. Like that's the whole premise of social media. Like Facebook was all about a way to connect with friends, who might be, distant when you go away to college. You can connect with friends back in your hometown or at other colleges, building connections. And TikTok and Instagram has sort of gone a little bit away from that, where it's more about value. But I think the biggest thing there is just like, don't be a prick.
Yeah, be genuine.
Like another person is that. Have you seen the Cunny guy who does fitness stuff? Yeah. Like he's funny, right? And he's like edgy. Yeah, Top Cunny. Yeah, it's funny, right? Like he does stuff and it's hilarious. Top C. Yeah. Yeah, it's just funny, right? Like he's that's the brand he's putting out there. Is like, I'm funny, but I also know what I'm talking about, and you'll learn stuff. There's a couple of videos have been showing up for me recently, and I'm like, oh, it's pretty funny.
I've followed him for a while. Did you see he shattered his Achilles kicking his signature move is like a spinning back kick. He does it in all of his videos. It's like spin kick. He did one on a boxing bag and he shattered his Achilles, and it was caught on his like in-home camera.
That's gold. That's fucking gold. The next one there is about leveraging social proof. So I'm going to talk about this I'm actually just going to give a personal experience with this. Is that I did my first powerlifting comp, was going to go into a second powerlifting comp, and was like, all right, I feel like I'm a bit out of my depth. I need to find a coach. And so I had options, right? Coaches like PTs that were local to me in Bathurst. But then there was also other opportunities out there that were available to me. And one thing that I found is that I was constantly watching there's a couple of powerlifters that I followed that were really strong and doing really big things. And I was like, watching their content, saw that they were tagging certain people in there, and a zero weakness was what they were tagging. So it was Joe Whitaker, Lily Riley were tagging. There was also a few other people that I, looked up as well, but they were tagging zero weakness. And I was like, oh, what's zero weakness? So I went and followed zero weakness, which I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. There's some cool stuff. Went and watched a bit of the zero weakness stuff. I was like, great, they know what they're talking about. Who trains? Joe Whitaker. Who trains? Oh, Tom Burrow does. Looked at Tom Burrow's profile, like, oh, this is pretty cool. The people in Zero W seem pretty, Zero seem pretty down to earth and, seem like they'd be pretty easy to get along with. I was like, oh, I wonder if they do, I wonder how to get a hold of online coaching. I don't really want to message any because it's not my style, right? I don't want to message anyone through Instagram and be like, hey, I want to get online coaching. And so I then went and did a search, Zero Weakness. So I was like, all right, let's check it out. And took me to their website where they had online coaching, prices, packages. You could submit a form straight on the website for someone to call you back. And for me, it was like, oh, this is pretty fucking cool. Like, I can already see how much it's going to cost me. I know that I want to be a part of this zero, whatever it is. Let's check it out. And so I filled out the form, and it was really funny. My coach called me up. Well, my coach now, Henny, he called me up, but he fucking didn't realize he was calling me. And this is like what makes it really funny, right? He's a Kiwi Blake's on the Gold Coast. Surprise.
The surprise is he's not a scaffolder.
I think he used to be a tradie, some sort of scaffolder or something. But yeah, so he calls me up. He didn't realize he FaceTimes me, but he didn't realize he thought he was calling someone else. So I don't know how he fucked that up, but he thought he was calling someone else. And I answer. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And he's like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "Who are you?" And then we had this conversation. He's like, "Oh man, I didn't mean to call you." And we had this conversation. It was really fucking good. And now he's my coach. But one of the first questions he asked me when I jumped on, he's like, "How'd you find us?" And so I told him, like, "Oh, look at Joe Whittaker's stuff, look at Lily Riley, saw Zero W, the brand." And it's just like, that was social proofing, right? That's why you get people to tag you when they repost things, because it actually provides that reference point for people to go back to. And so it's really good with fitness industry, post a physique update, you post a lifting update, you tag your coach, you tag, whatever the coach is a part of. And suddenly people go like, oh, shit, Andrew's coached by so-and-so. I want to go and get the same coach as Andrew because dude's ripped. He's got a six-pack. Look at him go.
Damn
right?
Right.
Same thing if you had like a golf coach or something like that, you'd start to look at that too. Like you look at, I wonder how much business the Australian strength coach Sebastian Oreb has got from having Thor Bjornsson as his like star
Athlete.
athlete, right?
Heaps.
Like strongest man in the world. Like he'd have to be just raking it in off people coming to him because of Thor, right? Not to mention his other extremely strong lifters that are a part of his team. So being able to take that social proof and put it into play, I think is super important. How that translates to like B2B SaaS, you need to have like a really, 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 really strong, active person as a part of your customer base. A good example of this is actually Baremetrics, who has a customer who's was it RB2B?
RB2B, yep.
Yeah, and so their CEO and founder does an amazing job of being like, "Hey, our revenue's up. Look at this graph from Baremetrics."
And it's Baremetrics, yeah.
Baremetrics, right? And he's like shouting out Baremetrics. We use Recover. Look how much we've recovered with Baremetrics, right? Like he's just doing the Lord's work. He's out there just like preaching about Baremetrics, and it's like, man, how do you get a raving fan like that? If everyone had a raving fan like that, that'd be really good, right? And this is where I say there's certain things that the fitness industry does so well. Well, some people do so well, and it's that constant Instagram. Like if you see someone or you meet someone, they're strong as fuck, they look good, they're bodybuilders, whatever, they run really fast, whatever the case may be, you follow them. And then suddenly you start seeing them tag the same person or company or organization in every single post that they do. And you're like, holy fuck, I want to get fast like this person. I want to run marathons like this person. You go and you sign up to whatever they're on. Like, give me their juice, right? Like, and I think that as businesses, like, holy shit, like Zeus Electrical, right, should offer people a discount if they share the work they've done on their social media. Like, who gives a fuck if Zeus Electrical's posting? Because guess what, Zeus Electrical, your followers are seeing that shit. No one else is, but if the customer shares it, then their whole network sees it.
Yeah. And I think something that Zeus Electrical does really well is they will tag their customer in the post, right? And
so they can share it.
Then they go and share it, and then a lot of gyms and personal trainers and stuff do that too. Like, hey, check out fucking Abe's transformation, and then that straight away you're going to share that. You're going to share that, right? Like, yeah, look at me, I'm killing it, and then your followers are going to see it as well. So I think that's a really effective way initially, but obviously if you can get those raving fans doing it for you, even better.
Yeah, 100%, dude. And I think that's a key piece that a lot of industries are missing. Industries, not just people, but whole industries are missing. Car dealerships do it okay. Someone buys a new car and they'll put the bow on it. The only reason they put that shit in the showroom and put a bow on it so you take a fucking damn photo and put it on social media and be like, finally got my dream car, paying 10% interest.
It's got the Mazda Aspley fucking sign on the front of it.
Yeah. And the only reason they do that for you is so you post it on social media and you feel good about it. You tell your friends about it. Oh, they put a bow on it. It's fucking great, blah, blah, blah. And then you put it on social media and everyone's like, shit, I need a new car too.
Yeah.
It looks like Andrew had fun down at Mazda. Better go down there myself.
Andrew needs a new car. Might go check it out.
Charlotte, Andrew needs a new car, mate.
I've had mine for a while. Long time.
You have. So, yeah, social proof. Like, I think it's something that a lot of industries do really well. A lot of industries don't do it. But figure out how you can get, as I said, Instagram and TikTok, you need followers for people to see your shit. So leverage that and get people to tag you, tag your customers, whatever, so other people see you.
Yeah, for sure. And then Facebook and things like that. Even just if you're posting, and this is where Zeus Electrical and other companies have a lot of success, is in those community groups where someone's like, hey, I need an electrician. And if I'm the first one to see it, I always am going to tag Zeus Electrical. So again, it's social proofing, and then Zeus Electrical will jump on, they'll see the tag and go, hey, thanks for the tag, Andrew. And then they'll, provide the advice, the feedback, whatever it is, to the post from there. So yeah, social proofing is huge, especially in those service industries, but across the board.
Yeah. All right. So Andrew needs to go to bed because he's tired. So look, the key things here that we talked about is social selling. It's not a cold pitch. It's relationship building. So don't sit there and pitch your tools. Don't pitch your products. Don't tell them how good you are. Just build relationships, be authentic. Or if your authentic self is completely wrong, get good at faking it, but do it consistently. But it's about building relationships, right? So don't think of it as, instantly I'm just going to put this post up and then I'm going to get, an influx of leads. No, wrong. You're going to need a post for a year and then you'll start getting leads, maybe even 5 years, 6 years, which brings on lesson 2. Consistency is key. Engagement, value-driven content. You need to provide something to people. Social media was made for people to get benefit out of, not for people to just sit there and be sold to. So build that trust, build that engagement. Look at people who are doing it well. Think about people that you've engaged with and think about people that you trust and you would listen to for advice in whatever industry it is, and just try and replicate that in your industry. And then social proof is so important, especially when you look at TikTok, Instagram, even Facebook. You've got your circle of influence. People will see your shit. Get other people to start sharing your stuff or posting your stuff and tagging you in it, because that's going to result in a broader reach across the board.
Nice work, mate. Good summary. Good podcast.
You're welcome.
Good podcast.
Great.
You've done well.
Great podcast. Great podcast.
Great podcast. Do you want me to wrap us up?
You can do the wrap up today. God, how good's that? I usually do it. You do it, mate. Let's see how you go. You ready?
Ready? I'm going to read it like you do. So, as always, like and subscribe on all of our social media at Beers and Business Pod. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Instagram. That's about it, right? LinkedIn. YouTube. I already said YouTube, but thank you. Episodes drop at 10 a.m. Tuesdays, I think, and all of our other social media will be throughout the week. As always, drop us any questions, topics, and guests that you want to see, or even people from specific industries. Let us know. We're running out of ideas quickly, so anything
that's a lie.
Throw us is appreciated. And that's it. Be sure to join us next week. Here we go.
Social selling. One thing I will say is that if you enjoy what we're saying here on the podcast, tell one person about it. So tell one other person about it. That's what we asked. Help us gain more followers. Just tell someone else about it. Don't have to reshare anything. Just say, hey, I listen to Beer and Business podcast. It's great. Andrew's a dickhead. Abe's a great bloke. Go listen to it. You'll at least get a laugh. Get some beer recommendations, because every beer is good except for that one beer that Andrew had.
Don't drink this one if you don't like hops.
Oh, is that shit too, is it?
Oh, it's just hoppy.
I've noticed you've only had one sip of it.
Yeah.
You also have influenza, so that could be.
I've had most of it. But yeah. Also, if you're listening and you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Helps out. There's so many people I've met recently that have said how good the podcast is, and then they've realised they're actually not following. They just listen to it each week, so because they see it when we share it. So go and like and subscribe and help us out. Until then, have a good week. Go and social sell, and we'll see you next week.
Good luck to the Beerwah Bulldogs.
Go the Bulldogs. Fuck Noosa.
Yeah, Beerwah.
Go Beerwah.